Hey, good people. James here again today, and well, you know, it's time to plant a tree. Spring here along the Wasatch Front. Thick, looks like cloud cover today, which is my best and most favorite kind of weather to work in. This is a London plane tree that we're planting today, often confused as a sycamore because they look very, 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 very similar. But there is a difference. A London plane tree is a hybrid from a sycamore. So we've gone to the nursery, we've picked a excellent specimen here, and this is in a container. So if you've been following along, watching in my videos, you know exactly what I'm doing right here. I am trying to identify where the crown is. Where is that point that it goes into, starts producing those lateral roots? Because I don't want to put the root system above the ground, but at the same time, I don't want to put the trunk below the ground. And right here, not this root, but right here, we can see the ground is starting to flare, or the crown, excuse me, starting to flare out a bit, okay? So it's just maybe a ½ inch below just this mulch that they added on when they potted this up some time ago. Now, to digging the hole. How deep are we going to dig the hole? Well, that's why I was looking for the crown. That tells me that I'm going to dig my hole right about this depth right here and no deeper. You don't dig the hole deeper, you don't put drainage material in the bottom, you don't amend the soil in the bottom. All this is based on research. This is not, gee whiz, I've been doing this for 40 years and this is how it's done. It's based on the research. You don't dig the hole any deeper than you need to in order to get it at the right depth, and you leave that soil undisturbed. So we're gonna get digging here. We're digging, if you noticed, we removed the sod in this park strip so that we will have ample room to maneuver around it with mechanical devices, weed whackers and lawnmowers and whatnot, so we don't damage the tree. So we're gonna get to it. We're gonna get that hole the right depth and get our tree planted. Now, a couple things that we're going to do once the tree is in the hole is we're going to be introducing a product you'll see me putting in. It is a mycorrhizal fungi. Again, based on the research and in these soils that we have in this ancient lake bed, there's not a lot of microorganisms in the soil. And so that's part of why we introduce that when we're planting the tree. We're not going to be fertilizing it, but we are going to be introducing this mycorrhizal to it. And then, of course, we're going to water as we backfill, make sure that the tree's secure, and then take the packing material off the trunk. We don't want to harbor any insects or disease during the growing season. However, another one of my videos that we'll probably link here is about wrapping the tree in the wintertime. So I will be wrapping these trees with a tree wrap. This wrap isn't preferable because it is dark and it will take that radiant heat and kind of warm things up. We prefer a white tree wrap to keep the tree trunk from warming up. But watch that video and you'll learn more about why that'll happen. So follow along here, and we'll get this tree planted correctly. One of the things you'll discover is after you've pulled it out of the pot, if it's spent any time in the pot at all, there are going to be girdling roots that have started to grow around when the roots hit up against the pot. We do not want roots to continue to grow that way in a circle around the tree, which they will if I don't do something about that. So I have this old pruning saw that I just take and disrupt those Just those circle roots. I don't want to go in and damage a bunch of roots inside the root mass, but I am going around and simply dealing with these circling roots and making sure I've got one here. This one I'm just gently going to tease out by hand because it is a bigger root that started to do the circling, and we'll deal with this one not so much, but we get those girdling roots from forming. And trust me, in all my diagnostics over the years, I've seen plenty of trees suffer and even in some cases die because they were planted and the circling or girdling roots were not addressed at the time of planting.
Rolling versus lifting.
Yep.
Oh, not deep enough. Well, maybe. Because you said it went down a little.
Yeah, let's grab that rake over there and let's put it across the hole. Yep, I like it. Yep, so it's all about the surrounding grade. We're exactly at the right height. So we can start backfilling that. One of the things that you saw us do in that process of planting is you really don't want to be grabbing the tree by the trunk to lift, to move, etc., etc. That can damage the root system and even the crown of the tree. So that is strongly discouraged. So we roll it over the hole and roll it down into the hole. The mycorrhizal is a beneficial fungus that attaches to the root system and in a very symbiotic relationship with the tree helps the tree acquire the nutrients that it needs to more efficiently take up nutrients, etc. Continue with on that back side. You want to firm the soil without packing the soil as you're planting, simply to make sure that there are no air pockets in the soil. But again, I want to emphasize the fact that you do not want to tamp it down and start compaction, because while we don't want any airspace, we don't want to cause a situation where we have no space for oxygen as we're watering the tree. Go ahead. So as we're putting this all together, you can see these roots here. This is exciting stuff, and we're going to get this soil right up. Now you don't want to put soil, mulch, anything else against the trunk. We're going to be, when it's all said and done, we're going to have a layer of soil that's going to come in here, but we're not going to let it stack up against the trunk. We've left, again, this is at a height, given the surrounding grade. we're a good match. We're going to leave a little bit of a recess here just to begin with because this is a clay soil, and even though this soil is moist, at the moment we want to get this tree watered in well. So that's going to be our next step. We're going to water this, so we're going to stop right here. This isn't our finished product, but this will allow us an area to water the tree for the moment. Now, there's no harm if you did want to go ahead and create a dike or a dam around and create a tree well for watering for the first little while. And by that I mean week or so as a tree establishes the soil getting settled, etc., etc. But you don't want to leave those up long term because they have a propensity to keep moisture up against the trunk. This is the most important day of this tree's life. This tree is going to spend the rest of its life in this location. And it's up to us to determine what kind of a life it's going to have. Frequently I'm asked about staking new trees. And the reality of it is we really would rather the trees not be staked. It simply can lead to damage in the tree because so often those get forgotten. And it's really not necessary unless the tree is in a high wind area where it's going to be vulnerable to being pushed over. Then a simple 3 or triangular setup for staking. Just remember to remove the guying that you do, the wires that you put up, in the same year that you put them up. And if you still feel the tree needs to be braced after that, redo it. But don't leave it up season to season because you will ultimately end up with something that girdles the tree. And yes, I have seen them girdle a tree to death because they're left around the tree. As I said, this is not a packing material that I want to leave on the tree. This is simply done to preserve the trunk as best possible and transport. So for this growing season, this is all going to come off. And then around the end of October, we will wrap these trees. I don't do any pruning at this time unless I've got a broken branch. And I won't do any pruning on this tree for the first couple years. I want every one of these leaves to photosynthesize and bring to the root system those sugars through that photosynthetic process. Remember to like, follow, and give us a thumbs up if any of this information resonates with you or helps you out at all. But happy spring planting.